I hear you're going vegan. What? Is this a new fad, huh?
So, what will you have? Tofu or potatoes?
These vegan folks are just a bunch of hippies. Trust me.
Hey, should we order one of the vegan options here? I'm not a cow, okay?
What will you have? In fact, what can you have? I guess only soda and fries. Or water, maybe, right?
I didn't climb the food chain to be a vegan, man.
Can you order something real for once? Or are you planning to graze as usual?
Please tell me this isn't your way of going green.
I can bet if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, or even if you are not, you would have been part or subject to such banters and assumptions at some point in time. Like when one of your friends who is a vegan or has recently taken it up becomes a sore thumb of the group. Well, personally, I have been that a lot of times, and I'm a vegetarian, not even a vegan. Yet. Well, my name is Parth, and this is Dhvani. So first things first, thank you to all the people who have supported me in the last 1 week since I've released the first episode. Your love, kindness, and your responses, feedbacks are so important for me. Thank you everybody a lot. Also, Dhvani podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts. Why it is important? Because Apple Podcast is one of the places where you can rate and review, which will help me in doing much better work. So consider doing that. And all views and opinions expressed in this episode or the future episodes are basically just opinions and personal experiences that are being shared here. The objective is definitely not to hurt or disregard anyone's choices, feelings, or lifestyle. Hence, please make sure not to get offended by anything. Please. At some point or the other, we all have given a thought about what motivates a person to take up veganism, right? The most popular reason, of course, being the love for animals. If you are against killing of animals and their pathetic conditions in the slaughterhouses, that's something very prominent. And obviously then there are loads of arguments against it as well. Many see health benefits in going vegan and some are into sustainability, environmental conservation and so forth. But the thing is that not everyone has the same set of motivations or triggers to go vegan. Not all vegans are hippies. Well, many of them are. Actually, most hippies are vegans if you think about it. And someone once told me a very funny reason behind it, that when you go dumpster diving, you are more likely to find fruits and vegetables than meat. I hope you understand the logic behind that joke. Like, why I took up vegetarianism has nothing to do with all those popular beliefs. In fact, it is something that people are not able to speculate very easily. Me going vegetarian is somehow connected to smoking. Like, not me smoking literally, but smoking in some way. Now, can you guess how could that be? If you want to know, stick around till the end of this episode and believe me, you will be amused once you learn the reason. Anyway, while this debate between meat eaters and vegans and vegetarians goes on, I decided to speak with two people from Maastricht, where I am right now, to talk about their dietary choices, what triggered them to switch, and also how convenient it is to be a vegan in Maastricht and the Netherlands. It was quite interesting for me to understand their perspectives, perhaps because before this discussion, I never really gave a thought on these ideas and motivations that they mentioned. Though I have been working for quite some time on this podcast, much before the COVID situation started, this interview took place in the month of April when the pandemic was on its peak here in Europe and the Netherlands. We made sure to follow all the social distancing guidelines and we were quite far apart from each other during this entire discussion. So, here we go. I want to welcome my two lovely guests, Ceren and Gradus, to talk about their experiences, motivations, challenges, and opportunities of their respective dietary choices, especially living in Maastricht in the Netherlands. So let me start with Ceren. I would please request Ceren to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about where you come from and what is your dietary choice.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. My name is Ceren. I'm a third-year university student in Maastricht, and I'm originally from Turkey, from Istanbul, and I've been living in the Netherlands for almost 3 years, and I went for an exchange to United States in the meantime for half a year. My dietary choice is I am pescetarian since almost 3 years now.
Okay. And Gradus?
Yes, my name is Gradus Wolters. I live in Maastricht. I come from the Netherlands. I am not a student. I work. I'm a very proud co-worker of Parth. My dietary choice is I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan for 3.5 years. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. So I didn't tell about myself actually. I am a vegetarian and I have been a vegetarian for almost, I think now 15 years. And what vegetarianism is in India is different what it is here. So vegetarianism in India also excludes egg there. So egg is not considered vegetarian in India for most of the places. But here I think egg is okay if I'm not wrong. So this is a very important thing that I think about because I also got this understanding very late about what are the different motivations to be a vegan or to be a vegetarian. For example, for me, I'll tell you, my motivations are nothing to do, like when I started off, it was nothing to do with animal killing or animal products or anything like that. My only reason was that my mother is a non-vegetarian, my dad is a vegetarian, and I just switched sides one day. Very stupid, very foolish reason to do so. But now today when I'm more, let's say, influenced by all the different things, now I think that veganism, vegetarianism is something that I would want to continue. And I become very creative that way. So I would want to understand. Let's start with you, Gradus. What is your motivation? And as you said that you have been a vegan for more than 3 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was your motivation? How did you get into veganism? Please tell us something about that.
It's all about health. It's all about how we should live, you know. Before I was vegan, I could never ever think that I would become vegan. My ex-girlfriend helped me becoming vegan. And before that, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know that you'd have to exclude milk, dairy products, meat products. Yeah, meat products was quite obvious, but that you also had to exclude dairy products. That was quite an unfamiliar world for me. So she led the way throughout that world for me. And she showed me that you can actually just, be easily vegan if you just let go of your ego, of your, so yeah, and in the first 2 years it was hard for me to be vegan because my ex-girlfriend actually made all the meals for me. So I was still quite an amateur at cooking. And then when we broke up, it alarmed some bells for me. I was saying, you have to get into cooking, or else you cannot be vegan. You have to,
Right.
get back to meat eating.
So unlike how it happens nowadays, like a lot of people get influenced by Instagram, let's say. A lot of people get influenced from social media nowadays.
Yeah.
For you, it is an actual person who influenced you to become a vegan. That is what we can say, right?
Yeah, I can actually say that. Though I don't really use Instagram that much, but I've gotten quite some recipes from Instagram and from the internet in general.
If you talk about today's scenario, yes, you get a lot of content on the social media to do that. Yeah. But I'm specifically talking about the first instance where you thought about it or who triggered this. And let's move on to Ceren's story. You are a pescetarian. Now, pescetarianism is something new for me, I would say. Like, I have never thought about it that there can also be this kind, because as I said, in India, if it's meat, then it's fish, any kind of meat, egg, everything is considered non-veg. So tell us about it. How long have you been a pescetarian and why? What made you switch?
Yeah. When I came to Maastricht, initially, I wasn't pescetarian. I would eat meat, occasionally not so much.
Yep.
I think it's just the way of cooking in the house that's what you get used to. And I was mostly used to having vegetables in my diet, but in what I eat. And one reason I wanted to switch, actually the main reason then, was that I didn't want to eat mass production. And in Maastricht, I didn't know where to get the good, like kind of more fairly produced, let's say, meat. And I decided to try going vegetarian, but it was a gradual change in that sense. I actually decreased the amount of meat I ate very much when I arrived here. And then I decided, okay, I will try a month, and actually started with the people in my kitchen to try like a month of being vegetarian. And I kept it I realize now it's been actually more than 3 years, because March was 3 years, and I kept it for 3 years, whereas I think it's very much an individual choice, because I started with my friends, but they went back to their eating habits in 2 weeks. So it's very different how we all experience experienced this. And the reason I'm a pescetarian, I would say I'm mostly plant-based. I wouldn't be able to call myself fully vegetarian or fully vegan because I occasionally have eggs or milk products or fish. That's why I say I'm a pescetarian. And that's also like the type of products I eat. I choose them according to where they are produced. If I'm having fish, how the fish is being caught. But it's been changing since the last year. So first I started with, again, like this idea of not eating mass-produced products. And then I switched back to, I think, more of this connection that I actually enjoy eating like this. So I would like to keep it in that sense.
Yeah, so basically this whole journey is like it's an evolution where you evolve and you understand new things, and according to that your preferences change, right? Like you learn new things, new motivations come into the picture. Because this has been one of my cases, as I was telling, that I have been a vegetarian for a long time, but now I see a lot of advantage of being a vegan somehow. Like there are so many motivations in and around me that motivate me to be a vegan. I'll give a very simple example that cow milk is as cheap as soy milk here in Maastricht. So I just go and pick up soy milk every time. The taste is same, everything is good, and also I never was lactose intolerant. But now I think after I've started consuming soy milk, I think I have been a little bit of lactose intolerant because I never feel bad after having a coffee made of soy milk. So these are some little things I have noticed in the recent past I've been living in Maastricht. So like this is what I want to take the discussion further. Maybe Gradus can contribute to this. Gradus, what do you think for you are the advantages of being a vegan? Like if you talk about today, 3 years down the line, what has added in your repertoire?
Having more energy and actually get the insight that you are, as an individual, you are responsible for your actions, for your own diet, of course, but also for animals, you know. It wasn't the direct motivation for me to become vegan to actually save animals. But when you think of it, animals, you know, there's this general saying like animals have feelings too. And a lot of meat eaters actually try to offend us by saying things like, but plants have feelings too, you know.
Yeah, but plants don't. Actually, plants don't have feelings. That's the fact.
It's so stupid.
There's no nervous system. Yeah, exactly.
It's also so easy to be vegan. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of effort to actually cook a full vegan meal. It's just up to you whether you want a very easy or an easy vegan meal, or if you want to have some, if you want to have a lot of ingredients in it. It doesn't really matter. It's just really up to you and your own motivation and your own personality. So
basically, if you're open to it, it is not very different in effort. Like it doesn't need more amount of effort to cook a vegan meal, which I think is a thing people think. Like if I have to cook vegan, it might take more effort, which is not the case. I think this is a thing that we can debunk right away. It's not the case, absolutely. And also one of the reasons I think I want Ceren to answer on this, that because you have also been to the US and you can also compare Turkey to the US, to the Netherlands in this case, I guess. Do you think that it is also a little advantageous to live in a town like Maastricht, which has so much international people here? Is it an advantage that way?
I would definitely agree. Maastricht is a place which influences you and allows you, in a way, like easily transition to becoming more plant-based in what you eat. And here I would say one of the first things that I recognized, what a lot of my friends were vegans when I came to Maastricht, whereas before when I was living in Istanbul, I had some friends, but it wasn't, let's say, a high majority. So it definitely inspired me to like explore the options in terms of cooking. And for me, it wasn't foreign because, as I told you, I would eat mostly like vegetable-based beforehand. So for me, it was actually very enjoyable to explore what I can cook, what I can mix. And I think Maastricht offers you a lot of, like, there are a lot of stores you can buy vegan products. You can go to the market, really nice fresh produce. They have organic markets if you prefer also eating more local and organic. And also one of the reasons I mentioned being in US was to give like some kind of comparison of how it feels. There I was also very able to continue with my diet. Might be because of the region I was in, because in US I think it's very changing depending on where you go. And I was in California, so that's more, let's say, open to new ideas in a way. I don't know if I'm creating a stereotype, but even there I would say it was less common than Maastricht. So it's easy to reach products, but it's less common to have a debate on your eating habits and its impact on animals, on the environment, or on your body. So the focus is a bit different, let's say.
And Gradus, I don't know, like if you're originally like from Maastricht or if you're from some other town in the Netherlands, but what do you think, if you have any experience from some other town in the Netherlands, if you compare the rest of the Netherlands to Maastricht, what do you think would be, is it different or it's same everywhere in the Netherlands?
I think it's kind of the same, but it depends. The bigger supermarkets here, they offer a broader choice of vegan products. And it just really depends on where you live, because if you live in a place where not many people live, or with a strange dialect, that really differs a lot from the Dutch language, then I think it's harder to be vegan. But as you guys said, here in Maastricht, it's actually so easy to be a vegan. There are not many vegan restaurants here, but there are a lot of restaurants that have vegan options, or at least one or two. And supermarkets, they have practically everything you need as a vegan to actually cook vegan meals. So.
Right.
I would agree. Just to add one more thing, I think it's interesting. It also in Maastricht, although I had more vegan friends, for the first time I met with vegan activists when I was in US. So it's I think it was interesting to hear their stories and how they and why they chose to be vegan. I think it's a little more emotionally connected, let's say.
Yeah. Because I think diet is something that is also influenced by a lot of cultural impacts. Like cultural influences also play a very, very crucial role. Because one part of the reason India has a lot of vegetarian, although I think non-vegetarian population is more than vegetarian in India, but it's a lot. Like there's a lot of vegetarianism in India, and you can find pure vegetarian restaurants in India very easily. That's the thing. So, and this is one of the discussions I had with one of my friends. She was like, I cannot be a vegetarian ever in my life. It is not possible. Like they just disregard this right away because of their cultural impact. Like because she believes that she couldn't have grown up. She cannot think of it. So do you think, is it similar for you as well? Culturally, is that the case, or people are open towards different things? Because in my culture, people are not very open towards dietary choices. If a vegetarian is vegetarian, he's a vegetarian only. If a non-vegetarian is non-vegetarian, he's like that only. People don't switch that often. What do you think is your case in Turkey? What would you say?
For me, it was easy to transition in Maastricht. And when I would go back for holidays to Turkey, it was an adjustment also for everyone around me.
Right.
I think it really depends on how you introduce this new change. And I realized if I introduce it as a choice that I made and that I enjoy, nobody's complaining. Like they have questions, but if I would introduce it as something that is better to do, I would say, then people feel kind of attacked, that their choices are not good. So they go into defense mode and to kind of criticizing what you're doing. So what I tried to do was mostly to show them, this is how I eat now, this is how I enjoy it, how my body feels good, and how I feel connected to the food I'm eating. But there is definitely a difference, because in Turkey mostly the main dish is the meat, and when you take that out of your diet, then people ask you, but then what do you eat?
Yeah, exactly. What's the other option then? Yeah, I can understand that. That's the thing.
That's a really, I would have really kind and fun conversations with my grandmother, for example, when she wanted to cook something, but she would only think of the dishes with meat. But normally when she cooks, if she's cooking 3 dishes, it's 2 vegetarian dishes, 1 with meat. And she would forget all about the vegetarian options and focus only one of them, because that's the one I wouldn't eat. But it was a transition. I think it's about mutual understanding.
Sure. Also, me and Gradus were having this discussion once, and I don't know if Gradus has watched this movie. There's this movie on Netflix. It's a documentary about veganism and its benefits. It's called Game Changers. Have you guys seen that movie?
Yeah.
So that movie has really reinforced my belief into veganism. But I try to tell whoever I can about this movie, but people often tell me, no, it's a propaganda movie and you don't know about these things. It's funded by vegan products and this and that. Could be. I'm not saying that this is not the case, but the way that movie has been made, it's very believable for me, I would say. So this is what I wanted to ask you guys next, that do you think that there could be a possibility of this conspiracy theory somewhere? Because let me be very clear, the reason today we eat cornflakes in our breakfast is because some big cornflakes company funded some medical researches 100 years back and portrayed it to the world that eating breakfast is very healthy. If you don't eat breakfast, you are unhealthy, which is not true actually. So capitalism actually somehow affects these things. So for me, for my personal thinking, I sometimes actually try to think from the other side, and I think that it could be a possibility that maybe today veganism is being pushed in the same way how breakfast cereal was being pushed in the past. So very simple, your thoughts about pop media, social media, and how things are affecting it. What do you think? Is there something like that? Do you believe it or not? Just that. Gradus.
Well, yeah, capitalism has influence on everything. I mean, money.
Of course.
Money drives everything, you know.
Yeah.
If veganism wouldn't be financially supported, veganism wouldn't really exist in the days that it exists now.
Yeah.
But I think that people are born vegan, and giving dairy products and meat products to people is that is actually driven by capitalism, because we shouldn't eat meat, we shouldn't drink milk, we shouldn't eat yogurt. It's all
naturally we are not designed to do that, you're saying.
Yeah, it all exists because of capitalism, because there's a lot of money going in the meat industry right now. So that's the only reason why.
Okay. I think we are really running out of time now, because our video feed will end any time. So last two broad questions I want to throw in the open are, maybe Ceren, you can talk about this. This is the elephant in the room actually. Do you think that coronavirus today is because of meat eaters? And do you think if veganism is implemented everywhere in the world, we could have avoided this pandemic? Yes or no? Very controversial, but your thoughts?
Yeah, considering I think how it was initially started, if what we know is correct as information, it came from it was transferred to humans through eating meat. Yeah. So in a really a broad sense, perhaps you can say yes. Yeah. I would say it's related to being cautious and aware of what we consume. Yeah. So I think it's related to not being aware of what we eat, let's say. Okay. But I wouldn't be able to directly say yes, because I think it's a really bold.
It's a very broad thing to ask, but yeah. Just last bits, do you know any places for people who would listen to this podcast afterwards? Would you suggest any places in Maastricht that they should definitely try or a dish or something which is a vegan or pescetarian delicacy that is a must try in Maastricht? Something for the listeners, maybe. If anything comes on the top of your mind, you can go Gradus first while Ceren can think about it.
You mean a restaurant in Maastricht or
anything, restaurant or thing that should be tried? Like somebody told me about this vegan pretzel, I guess, in sap, which is very nice.
Those bagels are really nice.
Bagels, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and a restaurant called Ceren, where you can get vegetarian and vegan dishes. So people should definitely look on the menu there and decide for them.
I hope I can get some sponsorship from them now, since we have mentioned them on this podcast. Ceren, what are your favorites, if you can think of anything?
One of the places I really like is somewhere called Vers, and there you can get really nice soup and salads, and they also make nice, mostly vegan, I think, desserts. There's a new cafe my friend suggested me. It's called Plak, which is also a cat cafe, fully vegan. Really cute place, I would say. Yeah, I think on top of my head, those are the places I really enjoy to go.
Awesome. I think that's it. Thanks a lot for this discussion. It was a very long pending discussion that we finally have been able to do. So thanks a lot for taking out time in this difficult crisis that we are dealing with, all of us together. And I hope you do better in your journey of pescetarianism and Gradus veganism, and me too. I hope we get more and more options in the future to do this and to promote this as best as we can. So thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having us. That's
No problem. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
I hope you found that discussion interesting. I don't know if you guys were able to notice this during our discussion. We actually had this call over Zoom and all of us were in our respective homes. Even then, we were able to pull it off quite well, I think. Also, I have video of this entire discussion, which I would be putting on YouTube soon. I have still not created a YouTube channel for this podcast. Once I do, I will let you know. Well, as promised, why am I a vegetarian? A decade ago, my dad was a smoker, a chain smoker, and he's also a vegetarian by birth. And I was a non-vegetarian like my mom. When I was old enough to understand that, okay, smoking is not a very good thing, I started asking my dad to quit smoking. I was 14 back then and I was very sure that my dad won't be able to quit smoking as he was obviously addicted to it. Then I tried thinking about my addictions and the first thing that came to my mind were the tender and juicy kebabs of the Tunde Kebabis, which are a specialty from my hometown Lucknow. That was my addiction. One day, without giving much thought to this, I casually made a promise to my dad that if he can quit smoking, I will quit eating meat. Almost 1 year after that, to my surprise, he actually stopped smoking. Not because he wanted me to become a vegetarian, but because he genuinely wanted to quit smoking. And from that point, till date, in the last 14 years, he hasn't smoked a single cigarette. So back then, the kid in me was devastated by this thought of letting go of these delicious kebabs. In fact, my dad insisted that I shouldn't care about the stupid promise that I made as I was a kid, and I should continue to eat whatever I want. But given his courageous act, after a lot of lame excuses and some delays, in that very year, I gathered the willpower to finally quit meat. And since then, I have been a very happy vegetarian without any regrets whatsoever. I would like to thank Ceren and Gradus for this awesome discussion. This podcast has been produced and hosted by me, Parth Chauhan. The voices that you heard at the start, in order of their appearance, are of Sophie Gori, Akshay Tyagi, Nikita Kalra, Aditi Prakash, Vasudha Prakash, Naman Agarwal, and Kabir Sarkar. Thank you so much, you people, to volunteer for this. I had a lot of fun compiling those dialogues. The kick-ass theme music of this podcast has been composed by the talented musician from Italy, Cutie Honey Bunch. He also works with a collective called Own Tempo Limited. And the branding was done by Soumya Garg, and Shivangi Garg provided the inspirations for the cover art of this episode. If you want to be part of this podcast, send emails to info@dhvani.co.in, log on to website dhvani.co.in/podcast, DM me on Instagram, or send me a voice note or several voice notes through Facebook. All details are there in the description. Along with all the other major platforms, Dhvani Podcast is now also on Overcast and Apple Podcasts, where you can and must go rate and review this podcast, because that would be really, really helpful. Thank you and see you in the next one. Bye.